Hello, good day everyone. Again, this is Joe Brand, so welcome back to my channel. Thank you for subscribing to my channel, for sending your likes, your comments. Thank you for supporting me. And today is I'll be explaining another video lesson. So I will be going back to my very old video. I posted this 3 years ago. So this subject is I'll be explaining the latest version of the subject, Understanding the Self. So I will be talking more about the psychological view of the self. So 3 years ago, I posted a video of a video playlist on Understanding the Self. So I'll be posting this one, the latest video, on the psychological view of the self. This is our lesson 3, version 1. So we will be talking about the various concepts in understanding the psychological view of the self. So again, psychology is the science of behavior. So it originates from the two Greek words, the psyche means the soul, and logos, which means to study. So it means psychology is the study of the soul of the mind. So today, it is defined as the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. So if you are interested to study the behavior of the person and how its mental processes works, that is psychology. So again, the self has many aspects such as self-esteem, self-awareness, self-perception, and self-concept. Again, the psychology of the self, either cognitive or affected, the psychology of the self, either cognitive or affective, represent one's identity. So let us find out the ideas and views about the self of the following psychologists. So we will be talking about four psychologists who who also shared to us the various concepts on understanding the self. Number one, we'll be talking about the idea of Sigmund Freud. So Freud argues that self is influenced by the interaction of our id, the ego, and the super ego. So another psychologist we'll be talking is Erik Erikson. So Erik Erikson suggested that in each life stage, an individual may experience crisis or a challenge. So, as we go on with life, we are going to experience a lot of identity crisis, struggles, difficulties, challenges. Number three psychologist, we will be talking about Carl Jung. So, Carl Jung emphasized the influence of archetypes on one's personality. So, he believed that the way you understand yourself is influenced by the different values from our forefathers, ancestors, and that's how you define your own personality. It is inherited from one gene to another gene. It is transferred. The number four is Carl Roger. So Carl Roger asserted that the idea of real self versus the ideal self. Again, Carl Roger asserted the idea of the real self, this is my real self, versus my ideal self, the kind of life that I wanted to be. That is your ideal self. So let's focus first on the concept of Sigmund Freud. So Sigmund Freud, provinces of the mind. His concept discusses more on the provinces of the mind, the psychosexual development, and the defense mechanism. So Freud was an Austrian neurologist. He is considered the father of psychoanalysis. So Freud contended that the self is the outcome of the interaction between the three structures of the mind, which is the id, the ego, and the superego. Therefore, the way you see yourself is influenced by these three structures of the mind: the id, the ego, and the super ego. So what is id? So the this is your pleasure principle. The things that gives you pleasure. So again, your id, it seeks immediate gratification of impulses. It ignores consequences. So for example, if you want to buy that dress, your id wants to buy that immediately. So you want to do this because it gives you pleasure. So you don't mind about the consequences of your action as long as it gives you pleasure. No? So if you don't have money but you want to buy this thing, your id tells you to buy it now. So that is id. So it seeks immediate gratification of impulses. The ego is the reality principle. This is your rational and thoughtful thinking. Meaning, if you want to buy that dress cost 5,000 and you only have 5,000 in your pocket no. So your id tells you to buy that because that's very beautiful dress no. It makes you happy, it gives you pleasure. So your id tells you to buy it now, not later. But your ego comes in. And then your ego will tell you reality is you don't have enough money. If you buy that dress, you will not have enough money for tomorrow. So your allowance, wala kay allowance. So you will starve. So you will struggle. So that is your ego trying to analyze things before you doing such act. And the superego is the morality principle. This is responsible for society's moral standards that feels guilty if rules are disobeyed. So the superego, this is your conscience principle, the morality. So if you do this, if you feel guilty while doing that thing, that is your superego. So when you hurt somebody and you feel you are guilty with it and you feel that conscience within you, so that is your superego. Id and superego are frequently in conflict. So your pleasure principle and your superego, the conscience principle or the morality principle, are frequently in conflict. So away na sila. 'Di ba? Sahay, you like this, but your conscience tells you ayaw lang. You love that person, but your conscience tells you nga di lang sa. Okay, so that's the id and superego are frequently in conflict. And the role of the ego is to satisfy both. So according to Freud, when the id's desires and the superego's rules cannot be satisfied, humans feel anxiety, and to cope with this, people habitually and unconsciously distort reality using defense mechanism. So again, when your id and superego are frequently in conflict, you don't know what to do, your ego is trying to balance things. Meaning, if the thing that you like to do and your superego cannot be satisfied, we feel anxious. We feel confused on what is the best thing to do. So that is the time that we will use our defense mechanism. So for example, I want to do this, but if I do this, if I don't do this, I want to do this thing, but if I don't do this, this will happen to me. That's the time that we humans feel anxious. We don't know what to do. We feel confused. That's why now we are going to use our defense mechanism. So Sigmund Freud's theory of psychosexual development. So according to Freud, children are born with powerful sexual and aggressive urges. So again, let's give example for the id, the ego, and the superego. For example, you want to go to the restaurant to eat. That is pleasurable, right? That is your id. You go there. And then when you go there, your superego uh tells you that that restaurant is very expensive. So your ego will think what is the best thing to do. But if there are cases when we're in your id and your superego are frequently in conflict, naglibog na sila kung unsa jud sakto. For example, kung nakay ganahan, tapos di pa jud mabuhat kay tungod tungod wala pa kay kwarta, you cannot do it because there's a lot of restriction, there's a lot of you cannot do it pa, it's not proper time. Humans, we feel anxious and we are now using our defense mechanism. So again, the Sigmund Freud's theory of psychosexual development. According to Sigmund Freud, a child 5 years old, if the child, according to Freud, children are born with powerful and sexual aggressive urges. This theory explores the five psychosexual stages in which the person seeks pleasure from body parts that are sexual in nature. He emphasized that a child's first 5 years are the most critical development stage for social and personality development. So, the first 5 years, according to Freud, the first 5 years are the most critical developmental stage for social and personality development. So, let's talk about the psychosexual stages of development. Number one is oral. Oral, this is birth up to 12 months. So a person tends to be talkative, thumb sucking. So I think we underwent all these stages, psychosexual stages of development. So birth up to 12 months, a child tends to be more talkative, loves to do thumb sucking. So the best way to cope this one is to slowly detach themselves from that stage. So, for example, when I was still young, my mom always, I love sucking my thumb using a mosquito net. I love that. So, every time I do that, I easily fell into sleep, which is good for me. Even if, and I don't want that thing to be washed. I want that, even if it smells bad na, I still loved it. So if somebody takes it away from me, I'll cry. I'll get mad. So my mom gave it back to me. But later on, because my mom wants me to learn, so she slowly turned that away from me. And luckily, I also cope up with that thing. So up to now, I was in elementary, high school, so I wasn't sucking anymore. So that's the best way to cope up with that stage. Number two is the anal stage. So this is from 1 to 3 years old. So a child may become perfectionist, stubborn, overly tidy, disorganized, destructive, clumsy. So it's natural for a child to do this. Clumsy, um, sometimes disorganized. So that's normal. So the best way to cope with that psychosexual stages of development is to train a child to do a toilet training. Toilet training meaning you need to let the child feel that it's the idea of letting go of things, the idea of controlling their emotion, letting go of things and controlling their emotion. So that's the best way to cope up with this anal stage or the 1 to 3 years old. Okay, the third is the phallic stage. This is from the 3 to 6 years old. So again, according to Sigmund Freud, 3 to 6 years old, the child may become so attached to their parents. For example, if you are a boy, there's a tendency that you will become mama's boy, and Freud called it as Oedipus complex. This is a son's attraction to his mother, very attracted to his mother, right? So if you are a boy, you are super attached to your mother. If you are a girl, you are so attached with your father. Like me, I am a girl. But I love my father. I am a daddy's girl. No, I love to be with my father. So that's attraction. So when you are so attached with your mama, with your mother, if you're a boy and you are so attracted with your mother, that is called Oedipus complex. But if you are a girl and you are so attached to your daddy or your papa, that is called Electro complex. You are so close with that, your mama or your papa. So the best way to cope up with this psychosexual stages of development is gender identification. So I am close to my father, but as I grow older, I also developing closeness with my mother. So because I am female, so I try to look at my mother as my model. So that is gender identification. So the fourth one is the latency, or the 6 years old to puberty. So again, the child may develop some um, friends. They love making friends now. They love to be with groups. So they also feel that um, they invested more in their school activities, hobbies, and making friends. So the best way to cope up with this psychosexual stage is through socialization. So we need to develop the kid by socializing, by teaching them how to socialize with others, by teaching them how to be with other people. So the fifth psychosexual stage is genital. This is the puberty to adulthood. So other people's genitals are this is more focused on reproduction and pleasure. So again, we are now developing intimate relationship. So we are now interested with being with being with other people, like intimate relationship, uh, dating. So that's how we focus on that. So genital, like me, I get married. So the best way to cope up with this genital stage is to build more intimate relationship, like dating, make friends, go out. So that's how we develop as a person. Because if you don't develop the genital stage, so there is a tendency that when you become so rigid, so you will become fixated. So you may find it hard to develop. You may find it difficult in establishing intimate relationship. That's why there are people who are having difficulty in intimate relationship. Maybe the genital stage of psychosexual development is not fixed, like she is not used to it. So it's good that we also build our intimate relationship. So here are some examples of defense mechanism according to Sigmund Freud. We have this number one defense mechanism, and this is our coping mechanism. We have our repression. The first one is repression. Repression is the unconscious blocking of unacceptable thoughts and feelings. So if going to ask me, I normally use my repression. This kind of defense mechanism, this is my normal way of coping when I receive some negative comments from other people, meaning I don't accept that. That's unacceptable thoughts and feelings. So I tend to block. So if I feel that you are sending toxic or negative comments, so I tend to block that unacceptable thoughts in my head so that I won't get affected anymore. So that is repression. The number two example of defense mechanism is denial. So this is a person's refusal to accept reality due to a painful experience. So denial, meaning when you get hurt from your previous relationship, so you tend to not accept that idea because you were hurt because you were afraid to get hurt anymore. So you are still in the state of denial. You cannot accept reality, cannot accept that the person is gone, the person is not with you anymore. So you are in the state of denial. That is our coping mechanism. Actually, for me, coping mechanism is good because that's the only way to protect ourselves. So sometimes I become so I repressed, and sometimes when we when we experience our first breakup, so I tend to become also denial. So I don't accept it because of that painful experience. So thankfully, I cope up with all those things. So number three is regression. Regression is reverting to a less mature way by adapting childish behavior. Again, my example is myself. Regression. So, for example, if I am stressed if I am born out. So I tend to adopt some childish behavior, meaning I talk to another person, I go out, uh, I am so grateful with a lot of things. I talk to other people, I play outside, I enjoy I enjoy the things that makes me happy. So I tend to revert all sana, 'di ba? Adulting 101 is very hard. So we have a lot of obligations, but when I experience burnout, I usually go out. I sometimes I adapt some childish behaviors. So before when I feel burnout, so I run. I also do things like being a child. So that's the simple way of protecting myself. That is regression, reverting to a less mature way by adapting childish behavior. Diba, when you were still a child, simple things you are so happy. So you smile a lot with no restriction. You you are so you experience so lambing, diba? So that is regression. The fourth one is projection. Projection is attribution of unacceptable thoughts or feelings to someone or something else. Meaning, you project you project the unacceptable thoughts to others. So you pass it on to others. Meaning, if you are hurt, you pass it on the hurt to others. That is projection. You project yourself to others. So that's projection. The number five is displacement. Displacement is shifting a feeling, thought, or action towards a more vulnerable target. So, for example, when I am hurt, so I want to shift my feeling to a more vulnerable target. Like, if I am hurt, I cannot hurt myself. So maybe I will hurt my younger sister if I do have. I will hurt a person who is more vulnerable than me. So which is not good, diba? Not good. So number six is reaction formation. Reaction formation is adapting belief or attitudes and feelings that are directly opposite to your own views. Reaction formation meaning this is opposite to your own views, but you tend to accept it. You tend to adapt it. That is reaction formation. Even if you don't like that information, you tend to adapt it. This reaction formation, directly opposite to your views. So when somebody is telling you to do that, and if you don't do it, so but you still do it, you don't like what other people are saying about you, or you don't like that they are pushing you to do this, directly opposite to your own views, but you still do it. That is reaction formation. So number seven is rationalization. So rationalization meaning attempting to justify one's action to dismiss unpleasant feelings. So for example, you are trying to defend your own rationalization just to justify yourself, just to just to make sure that your idea is good compared to. So attempting to justify one's action to dismiss unpleasant feelings. So you tend to justify your own rationalization to protect yourself so that other people will not get mad. So for example, if your parents are telling you to be here, to go home early, but you didn't come early, so you try to justify your own action. Because if you don't, your parents will get mad at you and you will be grounded. So that is rationalization. So number eight is sublimation. Sublimation is redirecting unacceptable drives into personally and socially acceptable channels. Meaning, sublimation is redirecting unacceptable drives. Meaning, if you are hurt, you try to do a very good unacceptable channel. You try to invest your hurt to a more positive channel. For example, if I am hurt, I'll do painting. If I am sad, I'll I'll sing. If I am hurt, I will play badminton. So that is sublimation. trying to redirect your unacceptable drives into a more acceptable channel. This is a positive way of coping mechanism. The number nine is interjection. So interjection meaning incorporating positive qualities of another person into their own ego. Meaning you try to absorb the positive qualities of another person to yourself. You try to adapt the positive things to yourself. That is introjection. Trying to adapt the good things, incorporating the good things to your own self. That is introjection, going inside yourself. The number 10 is fixation. So, fixation, this is a process where an individual may be persistently focused on an early stage of psychosexual development because one's wish are over gratified or under gratified. Fixation meaning you still have things that you want to do because there is unfinished business. So meaning you were not able to do this, so you want to do this because it is under gratified. And also you will not do this thing because it is over gratified. So it is more about the things that you were not able to do because of a lot of barrier. So you wish to do it to fulfill your dream, like going to school again. If you didn't finish your college, you try to go to school again to so that you can satisfy. You will not be fixated. You will satisfy your own desire, your wish in your life. So those are the different examples of defense mechanism uh, taught by Sigmund Freud. And I think everybody of us are using that. I also sometimes do that. And sometimes I also learn to balance everything because if you overly use all your defense mechanism without thinking the consequences of your action, that is not good anymore. So these defense mechanisms are universal. Universal meaning everybody are doing it. Universal and healthy. This is healthy. So this defense mechanism are universal and healthy at some point to overcome the anxiety caused by a conflict between the id and the superego. Because every day the id and the superego are in conflict with each other. That's why we are using our defense mechanism to protect us, to overcome the anxiety we experience every day. So again, your defense mechanism are universal, everybody are doing it and good and healthy. They can benefit the individual and not cause any harm to society to some extent. However, it should be noted that when used severely, they may cause the formation of maladjustment. So again, all these defense mechanisms are universal and healthy to protect yourself from anxiety because our id and superego are in conflict with each other. That's why we are using defense mechanism. That is good. But however, it should be noted that when we are using our defense mechanism severely, this may cause a form of maladjustment. Meaning maladjustment is we don't know how to listen anymore. We are so hard-headed. We only listen to ourselves. That's lead us to become more maladjusted individual. So that's important to get to know all your defenses mechanism if that is still good, that if that is still healthy, and because it helps you, or sometimes if it's when we used it severely, so it may destroy us and may cause us to become a more maladjusted individual. Okay, so I hope you are learning. So I will end my discussion today, this topic for Sigmund Freud, and I will continue the other three psychologists about their ideas on the psychological view of the self. So hopefully you are learning today, and hopefully you get something. You get something today. A very short video. I hope I was able to help you learn a lot. So thank you and God bless you.